I am 64 years old, and if I am being completely honest with you, I learned most of what I know about love the hard way. Not from books, not from advice columns, not from a therapist's office, though Lord knows I have sat in a few of those. I learned it from living, from choosing wrong and choosing right, and sometimes choosing nothing at all and watching that become its own kind of choice. From watching women I loved, my mother, my sister, my closest friends, stay in situations they should have left, or leave situations they should have stayed in, or spend years of their lives waiting for someone to become who they were never going to become. I am not here to judge any of that. I have done all of it myself. What I am here to do is tell you the 7 things I wish someone had sat me down and told me before I was 25. Before I said yes to the wrong person because I was afraid of saying no. Before I spent 12 years trying to love someone into changing. Before I confused being needed with being loved, which are 2 entirely different things, and mixing them up will cost you more than I have words to describe. I am Patricia Hayes, and this is what 64 years has taught me about love. The first thing, love is not enough on its own, and believing that it is will break your heart more reliably than anything else I can name. We are raised on the idea that love conquers all, that if 2 people truly love each other, everything else works itself out. I believed that with everything I had when I was young. I believed it the way you believe in something before life has had a chance to test it. And then life tested it. I watched couples who loved each other deeply, genuinely, sincerely destroy each other anyway because they wanted different things. Because one wanted children and one did not. Because one needed stillness and one needed movement. Because they were raised with different ideas about money, about loyalty, about what a Sunday afternoon is supposed to look like, and they never talked about any of it because they assumed love would smooth it all over. It does not. Love is the beginning of a relationship, not the whole of it. It is the foundation, not the house. You still have to build the house, and you build it out of compatibility, out of shared values, out of 2 people who actually want the same life and are willing to say so plainly. Before you commit yourself to someone, ask the questions that feel too serious, too early, too presumptuous. Ask them anyway. What do you want your life to look like in 10 years? How do you handle money when things get tight? What does your family expect from you and from a partner? What does loyalty mean to you? How do you fight? These questions feel unromantic. They are also the questions that determine whether the love you feel becomes a life you can actually live. The second thing, the way a person treats you when they are angry tells you more about who they are than everything else combined. Anyone can be kind when things are easy. Warmth costs nothing on a good day. The person who loves you correctly will show you who they are in the moments when love is the last thing they are thinking about. When they are tired, when they are scared, when you have just said something they did not want to hear, when the 2 of you are on opposite sides of something that matters. Watch carefully in those moments, not to judge, but to know. There is a difference between someone who gets angry and pulls away to cool down, and someone who gets angry and uses that anger as a weapon against you. There is a difference between someone who says hard things and then comes back to repair them, and someone who says hard things and acts as if they were never said. There is a difference between someone who fights with you and someone who fights at you. Learn the difference early, because the person who is unkind to you during conflict will not become kinder as the years go on. Stress does not reveal new character. It reveals the character that was always there. The third thing, People change when they want to change. Not when you love them enough, not when you stay patient enough, not when you finally find the right words, when they want to. I spent 12 years of my life trying to love someone into becoming who I needed him to be. I told myself that I could see who he was underneath the drinking, underneath the distance, underneath the way he disappeared into himself for days at a time. And I could see it clearly. But seeing who someone could be is not the same as living with who they are. And no amount of love, no matter how steady or how deep, has ever changed a person who was not already determined to change themselves. I am not saying this to make you feel hopeless. People do change. I have watched it happen. But the change always comes from inside them, from something they decided, from something they could no longer live with in themselves. It does not come from the patience of the person waiting beside them, no matter what the movies tell you. If you are in a relationship today where you are waiting for someone to become who they could be rather than loving who they actually are, please hear me. You are allowed to love someone and still accept that they are not the right person for your life. Those two things are not in conflict. The fourth thing, loneliness inside a relationship is worse than loneliness on your own. I did not understand this until I had felt both. When you are alone, you know you are alone. You can name it, you can grieve it, you can work toward changing it. But there is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from sleeping next to someone every night and feeling invisible, from having a partner and still carrying everything by yourself, from reaching towards someone who is physically present and emotionally somewhere else entirely. That loneliness has a weight to it that ordinary solitude does not, because it comes wrapped in a lie. On the outside, you have a relationship. On the inside, you are more alone than you have ever been in your life. If you feel that way in your relationship right now, I want you to take that feeling seriously. Do not dismiss it. Do not tell yourself you are being ungrateful or difficult or too sensitive. That feeling is information. It is your heart telling you that something essential is missing, and you are allowed to say so. You are allowed to name it to your partner and ask for something different. And if nothing changes, if you name it and nothing changes, you are allowed to factor that into the decisions you make about your life. The fifth thing, your gut knew before your heart admitted it. Every woman I know who has ended a significant relationship, and I have known many, has said some version of the same thing. I knew. Not consciously, not right away, but somewhere beneath the surface of things she knew. She knew from the first time he said something that felt like a small cruelty dressed as a joke. She knew from the first holiday where she watched his family and felt something cold move through her. She knew from the first time she caught herself hoping he would cancel plans because his absence was easier than his presence. We know things before we are ready to know them, and that gap between knowing and admitting can cost years of your life. I am not telling you to act on every fear or every doubt. Doubt is normal. Fear is normal. But there is a difference between the ordinary anxiety of loving someone and the persistent, quiet voice that says something is wrong here. Learn to hear the difference. Write it down if you have to. When that voice speaks, take it seriously, even when taking it seriously is the hardest thing in the world. The sixth thing, choosing yourself is not selfish. I want to say this slowly because I know how many of you were raised to believe otherwise. I left a marriage at 51 years old. It was the hardest thing I had ever done, and I want to be honest about that. There was nothing dramatic about why I left. There was no betrayal, no crisis, There was just a long, slow understanding that I had become someone I did not recognize, trying to fit inside a life that had never quite fit me, and that I was going to spend the rest of my days that way if I did not do something about it. People around me did not understand. Some of them still do not understand. And for a long time, I carried guilt about that, the way you carry something too heavy for too far, until finally your arms just give out. What I know now that I did not know then is this: you cannot build a good life for anyone else from a life that is wrong for you. The version of you that is poured into the wrong mold, that is compromised and silenced and slowly diminished, does not love better because she is sacrificing herself. She loves less. She has less to give. The most generous thing you can do for the people in your life is become fully yourself. That sometimes means making choices that are hard and that others do not agree with. Do it anyway. The seventh thing: it is never too late. I saved this one for last because I think it is the most important thing I have to say, and I want it to be the thing you carry out of this conversation with you. I know women I have looked in the eye and listened to who found real love at 57, at 63, at 68. Women who had written that part of their story off entirely, who had decided that the window had closed and they were going to make peace with that, and then something happened that they were not expecting. I know a woman who met her husband at 61 at a church fundraiser of all places, and they have been inseparable for 6 years. I know a woman who spent 20 years raising her children alone after her first marriage ended, and at 59 she found a man who looked at her like she was the most remarkable thing he had ever seen. She told me recently that she spent years believing she had missed her chance. She had not missed it. It had not even arrived yet. The cruelest lie that our culture tells women, and it tells it constantly in ways both loud and quiet, is that love has an expiration date. That if you have not found the right person by a certain age, or if you have left the wrong person too late, or if your life has not followed the expected sequence, then you have missed something irretrievable. The heart does not have a deadline. You are not too old. You are not too much. You are not too complicated or too scarred or too late. You are exactly where you are. And where you are is still full of possibility. I did not know at 40 what my life would look like at 64. I could not have predicted the losses or the turns or the things I would learn the hard way. But I can tell you that 64 feels nothing like what I feared it would when I was young and terrified of getting here. It feels like finally knowing who I am. It feels like the particular freedom that comes from having survived enough to stop being afraid of the things that used to paralyze me. And that is what I want for you. Not a perfect love story, not a life without mistakes. I want you to stop being afraid of the things that are keeping you from your own life. I am Patricia Hayes. And these 7 things are what I would go back and tell my younger self if I could sit down with her and take her hands and make sure she understood. I hope some of it was what you needed to hear today. If this reached you, if something in here landed in the right place, share it with someone you love. You never know who is carrying something they need permission to put down. I will see you next time on Patricia's Porch.